Thursday, as today, of 2 counts of criminal contempt of Congress over his defiance of a subpoena from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The verdict coming after nearly 4 hours of deliberation in federal district court in D.C. Navarro is the second top advisor of Donald Trump's to be found guilty of contempt for defying the committee's inquiry. Stephen Banner, former strategist for Trump, was convicted of the same offense last summer. He now faces 4 months in prison. He and Navarro vowed to appeal. Donald Trump's trial in Georgia could take 4 months. Prosecutors laid out this timeline in court yesterday. The former president and 18 others are accused of conspiring to overturn the 2020 election in Georgia. This means Trump could spend a third of a year sitting in an Atlanta courtroom while running for president and juggling 3 other criminal trials. Texas was ordered to move a floating border barrier in the Rio Grande. A federal judge says it's a threat to public safety. The 1,000-foot string of spike buoys is meant to stop migrants from crossing the international waterway. Texas has until September 15th to relocate the barrier to the U.S. side of the riverbank. But a defiant Texas Governor Greg Abbott has vowed to appeal the decision. As schools get underway and coronavirus cases rise, masks are returning to some American classrooms, and they are reviving the country's fraught political debate over whether first face coverings are common sense or an abridgment of freedom. Masks are returning to schools in Maryland, Alabama, and in New York, and there has already been a backlash from COVID deniers and conservatives. Mexico's Supreme Court decriminalized abortion in federal health facilities. That means over 70% of women in Mexico will have access to legal abortion, including everyone who uses the federal health system. The ruling marks a growing acceptance of the procedure in Latin America, even as it's restricted in the United States. The growing access to abortion comes as Mexico stands to elect its first female president next year. In Mexico, women have won the primaries of the 2 leading political blocs, making it likely that this traditionally macho nation will elect its first female president. And again, they will do so ahead of the United States. The matchup underscores how dramatically women have moved into political leadership in Mexico in the past few years. A woman is Chief Justice of Mexico's Supreme Court. Women lead both houses of Congress. Women make up over 50% of the legislature in Mexico, and they have done so since 2021. Now, pundits say it's not quite Barbie land, but the progress is remarkable in a country where women couldn't even vote until 1953. 6 Colorado voters filed a lawsuit yesterday seeking to keep Donald Trump off the state's ballots under the 14th Amendment, which says anyone who engaged in an insurrection or rebellion against the Constitution after taking an oath to defend it is ineligible to hold office. The lawsuit, which was filed in a state district court in Denver with the help of a watchdog group called Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, demands that Colorado's Secretary of State not print Donald Trump's name on the Republican primary ballot. It also asked the court to rule that Trump is disqualified in order to end any uncertainty. Mitch McConnell's freezes is complicating Republicans' attacks on Joe Biden's age. McConnell's recent freezing spells and other health concerns have created a campaign conundrum for Republicans who have ripped Biden as too old and too frail to continue as commander-in-chief for a second term. These same Republicans have continued to stand by Mitch McConnell as one of the top leaders of the GOP. This is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. This is hour 2 of Areva Martin in real time, and this is the hour where we go deep, where we dig. We go behind the headlines on the biggest stories of the day. These are stories that make big headlines and they have big impact. Today, we are talking about artificial intelligence. Yes, you've heard a lot about artificial intelligence lately, particularly associated with the Hollywood writers' strike. Writers are concerned that the big networks and studios will replace them by using artificial intelligence apps that can literally write TV scripts and movie scripts. And actors are also concerned about the use of artificial intelligence because artificial intelligence can also produce audio, sounds, and music. It can replicate artwork of artists and content that has been created by influencers. So we're asking today, what is the future of what's called generative AI? And that's a type of artificial intelligence that many of you may have seen or maybe using yourselves, this Chatterjee app. And generative AI can generate forms of creative content. There was a song on the internet that went viral that everyone thought was Drake, the superstar pop singer Drake, and it turned out that this was a song that was produced using artificial intelligence. AI generated artwork, photography, fashion, all kinds of images have creatives worried. They have the state of California worried to the point where the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, signed an executive order requiring his team to study the use of generative AI to look at the impact that it might have on the state and particularly on the labor market. So when we talk about AI, obviously it's going to revolutionize the way images are created, photography is created, but at what price? That's what we're asking today. Is AI going to replace human artists, illustrators, designers, photographers? And if companies know that they can create content by paying as little as $10 to have access to an AI artwork machine, then why would they continue to hire humans? Those are the questions we're going to be asking my guest in this hour. We have the reporter that broke the story on California and its efforts to get ahead of AI. We also have a group of Black creatives. We're going to talk about the impact of AI on the work that they do and on the community that they are a part of. So stick around when we come forward. More on artificial intelligence right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Gotta stay fresh, ma. House shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some
We are back, and in hour 2 of Areva Martin in Real Time, we are talking about artificial intelligence, what it means for folks like illustrators, designers, artists, and photographers. Is generative AI going to replace the jobs of folks who have dedicated their lives to being creatives? Joining me in this hour is Mohar Chatterjee. She is a reporter at Politico, and she broke a story about California and the signing of an executive order by California Governor Gavin Newsom to basically get ahead of AI so that the state won't be shocked by what it means for its workforce. Thank you, Mohar, for joining me in this hour. Let's talk about California. What exactly does this executive order do? What does it direct the members of Governor Newsom's cabinet to do?
Right. So I will tell you that in this order essentially directs how California deals with generative AI. When I say California, I mean their state agencies. Essentially, the order seeks to set procurement standards for how the government acquires generative AI from industry. It talks about how they should start to understand some of the risks and opportunities associated with generative AI. It's really a first step, as the California governor has said. And I can tell you from my reporting, what they're really hoping this executive order does, they're hoping it acts as an influence. It acts as a standard setter for private industry hoping to work with the government, the California government in particular, especially on generative AI.
Now, I read a quote where I believe it was the governor said AI is the next internet. So is there any concern about how big is this going to be? I think most people have, if they weren't familiar with artificial intelligence, they probably now have heard about it in the context of the Hollywood writers and actors strike. It comes up a lot as being one of the sticking points in terms of negotiations, where writers are concerned that they won't be needed, that generative AI will write TV scripts and movie scripts, and even actors are concerned that their name, image, and likeness will be used in a way that they don't have to show up on every film project, every episode of a TV show, because there'll be a robot type person using this AI. Is that a part of, you think, what's driving Governor Newsom to direct the state to get ahead of this?
I'll tell you this, I know they're in conversations with labor unions, but that is not the focus of this executive order. But you're actually bringing up a very important point. There are some big picture questions with AI that remain unanswered, right? How are people going to be compensated for their data? These are questions that are playing out at the federal level. And honestly, this is a question of people empower politicians, policymakers, picking their lanes and kind of picking off what they can control. One of the things we know that the California governor has done is they are trying to control what they can control, which is the state government's use of AI. But the question of how industry decides the incentives of who gets paid, who gets to profit, who gets to benefit from artificial intelligence's big rollout, right, across the US, across the world, those remain unanswered. Those are questions that are currently underway in the Senate Judiciary Committee through the U.S. Copyright Office. The questions of likeness that affect the entertainment industry, we're still figuring out whose jurisdiction that is. This is a question that is on top of mind for people. And honestly, policymakers are trying to figure out how to address it. We don't have a blueprint for this as much as the White House has an AI Bill of Rights on the big picture scenario.
I'm sitting here thinking about some of those congressional hearings where the CEO of Facebook and some of the other big social media platforms have been hauled into Congress, and they have to answer questions before these legislators, and the legislators are asking them all the wrong questions. They don't understand the answers, and we have these laws that many people think are flawed, like the waiver of liability or the immunity of liability for some of these social media platforms. They're not liable for the content that is posted on their sites by third parties. Many people believe that that's an outdated law and that there should be more responsibility or accountability for the social media companies. So I'm just wondering, with AI, are we doing enough? And is this step by California a step in the right direction to get ahead of some of these big thorny questions so that we're not 10 years out, now regretting this legislative scheme that basically leaves the social media companies without any level, some people believe, of accountability for hate speech and bullying and all kinds of other speech that has become so prolific on social media sites?
So you're referring to Section 230 protections for speech on the internet. And I will tell you that in Congress, there is a bipartisan bill that has been introduced to remove Section 230 protections from AI-generated material. And I'll also tell you this, it is one of many AI legislations that the federal Congress is considering. However, it's a divided Congress. We don't even know what's going to get to the Senate floor, to the House floor. We know that Congress has a tough time matching the pace of technological improvement. So the questions you're asking on whether the California governor is doing enough, I'll say the California governor is picking his battles on what he can do. But those big picture questions of the underlying economic incentives, right? Those, again, they're playing out on the federal level. Right? And those are Senate judiciary questions. But when you get to that stage, there's so much back and forth on what gets to go to the Congress, who gets to vote on it, that we honestly don't know if we're going to be able to see that economic incentive materialize in real time.
But why was it so difficult for our government to bring on the experts. I saw Netflix was advertising a job for an AI specialist. They were going to pay like $950,000 a year for this specialist to come on and presumably help Netflix figure out how it could cut costs and use AI to presumably do some of the tasks that they are now paying humans to do. So how come we don't see the state of California, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. Congress bringing on some of these same high-level deeply talented, deeply knowledgeable individuals so that we're not fumbling, our thumbs and trying to figure out something that could have such a profound impact on pretty much every aspect of our lives. You saw the story about college admissions. Are college students in this go round of college admissions using ChatGPT to write their applications and to write their essays?
I'll tell you this. If it feels illegal and it's not illegal, then it's probably a question of the issue outpacing our legal precedent, right? So in the technology industry, things move so fast that there's often like nothing that sort of lets us have a shared blueprint of when something feels wrong and we need to act against it. So to your question of why isn't government sort of keeping up with the pace of private industry hiring AI consultants? Well, it's not like they're not trying. They're trying to educate themselves faster than they've ever moved on technology. They're trying to learn from the mistakes of social media. But even though this is the fastest we've seen Congress move, it's still. And I'll point out one other thing, and this is an important thing to note. There is the notion of what states can do versus what is in federal government, and I'm talking here about DC, what's in DC's jurisdiction to do. That fight over who gets to pick what is really important, because if you have a bunch of states passing different laws about what is permissible with AI, then you have eventually industry saying, hey, federal law, you shouldn't there's a patchwork system, essentially. That's the word that gets used. There's a patchwork system. And so you're kind of galvanizing this entire system of lobbyists on the state level versus the federal level, and then you're coming into this notion of a gridlock of trying to pass a law at all. So again, going back to the power play that's happening here, you have Gavin Newsom trying to establish influence over the AI industry by setting some rules around how the government should engage with generative AI, by doing studies on the vulnerabilities of communities to generative AI. And that's what they can do right now. It takes a lot for the policymaking apparatus to move, right? And that's kind of the fear with AI activists, that's going to take something big for law to move.
So do you see other states looking at what California is doing and saying, hey, we need to get our act together. We need to get on this train. We need to create some of the same policies, rules, regulations, protocols that California is doing. Are you seeing movement like this in other states?
There are plenty of states that have introduced AI legislature in this session. And I'm by this session, I mean 2023. I'll say this, by signing an executive order through the governor's office, California, believe it or not, is kind of ahead of the curve. And that kind of speaks to the state of tech policy in the US in general. There are other states that are making headway on other issues. For example, Washington State has laws on how AI can be used for election disinformation. But on the congressional side, weirdly enough, there is a parallel with Senator Gary Peters trying to pass laws through the Homeland Security Committee. But long story short, California's kind of ahead of the curve in this, I'm afraid.
Well, we're not surprised. The saying is, as California goes, so does the rest of the nation, or so goes the rest of the nation. Be interesting to see, as you said, what happens as a result of this executive order, this study that has been commissioned by Governor Newsom in terms of how the state agencies may use generative AI. I think the big question for so many people still is around, what does that mean for my job? What does that mean if I am the I have a job where I write college essays for kids, and now they're going to Chat GPT, getting those essays written in like seconds, if not minutes. Are we replacing or displacing huge swaths of our labor market? And if I'm not writing essays for college students, what am I going to do for a career? And I think that's the big elephant in the middle of the room. So many people are afraid that AI is coming for them and coming for their job. Thank you so much, Mohar, for your great reporting and that story in Politico about California leading the way, trying to get ahead of this generative AI technology, because this train has left the station. Stay with us. When we come forward, we're talking to some Black creatives about what generative AI means for them and the work that they do, right here in KBLA Talk 1580.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of Black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of Black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon honoring Black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established.
Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
We are, and in this hour, we are talking about artificial intelligence and the impact that it has on particularly creatives, human creatives, and are companies using generative AI instead of hiring human artists, illustrators, designers, and photographers? And what does the proliferation of apps like ChatGPT mean for creatives and all kinds of folks who make their living, creating either content or music or visual, content. So joining us in this section, in this hour, is Dulce Baerga. She's a tech blogger and digital creator, and Charles Baab. He's a creator producer of Tech Leimert. Thanks, Charles, and thanks, Dulce, for joining us in this hour. Really interesting conversation with a reporter from Politico about California and this executive order from the governor, basically directing his staff to study the impact of generative AI on state agencies. I want to get from both of you your experiences. There are lots of stories on the internet of like songs that people thought were made by Drake going viral, lawsuits that have been filed by creatives claiming that their images were stolen and replicated and they weren't compensated for the use of their images. So let's start with you, Dulce. What has your experience been like with generative AI?
So I've been working with generative AI, pretty much all of the tools that have been available throughout alpha and beta stage now for about 2 years, really heavily. I got lost in Midjourney for quite a while and got inundated with the abundance of variations that I was able to create of art and different types of art. And as I worked in it, I've noticed that there's a signature to some of these tools. So it's very easy for me to tell based on what the output looks like, what tool actually generated that. And but it's actually getting better. The different versions of these frameworks and these different platforms like Stable Diffusion and Runway and different ones that include 3D avatar mesh or 3D objects in it as well that allow you to map around on 3D objects. Those things are becoming very popular right now. People are using them, and they're now using them to do things like deep fake and transfer over a style or a look from one thing to another to make it seem like it is something that it isn't. And that is a little scary for people who don't really understand the tool sets or don't understand how the tool sets work, and can also be easily fooled based on whatever their bias may be or their belief systems are. And then they could like proliferate that as false information or misinformation across the internet. And it takes smart people like us to be like, no, that's not right. So I work with startups that are making tools that could detect those things to help figure that out for you, to make it easier for you to filter and say, okay, this is actually AI. And in fact, you've got a lot of that filtering into Meta's platform at the moment. I've been seeing that heavily right now in their Threads platform, as well as in the Facebook platform, where somebody will post a picture and then it'll have a little disclaimer and say, nope, this is actually generated with AI. Just be careful. Yeah. So there's safeguards happening. We have to be more aware. I would love to go deeper on a deeper subject that as it impacts the Black and Brown community, but I'd let Charles talk about that.
I definitely want to talk about the impact on Black and Brown communities. Let me start by letting Charles jump in the conversation, though. Charles, have your experiences in general been positive or negative with generative AI?
My experience has been overall positive with generative AI. They're just tools that people can use to actually improve the performance of what they're working on, the task they're working on. Be that a letter, a movie pitch. There's a number of things you can use generative AI for. You can actually put together a whole entire presentation with generative AI. You can actually run through every slide and then actually generate every image that you need for it and get a really solid a product out of it. And I think that's one thing that it's positive. We have these tools. We just have to know how to read them. One thing we don't have is an internet literacy class. Like everybody jumps on the internet and everybody thinks the internet's a real place, and it's not. And they don't know what's real or fake. It's better if we have people hop on the internet thinking that everything is fake than trying to discern if something is real or not.
But do you have any concerns, Charles, about big companies like, the strike now, writers and actors? A big part of the negotiation sticking points is around the use of AI. So you said you can write a script, you can write a letter, you can do a whole presentation with AI. But if I'm a company and I used to hire you graphic artist, you content creator, you writer to create a presentation I needed to give for, as a company, and I can do that through AI, why am I going to hire you? So are we going to see folks like you displaced because AI can do the job?
When you look at generative AI, it's multiple voices coming together to make a product. And that usually shows up in the work, as Dulce was saying. You can point it out and see it. If you hire a good writer, they can create a script with generative AI, but they'll go through it personally and re-edit that script to have their singular voice, to put their signature on it. Generative AI will not have an individual's touch on it. It will have a bunch of individuals' touches on it, and it shows up really rather easily.
I hear you, but don't say I've heard writers say, again, members of the Writers Guild say, show or production company that maybe would hire 10 writers now hires one to go through that generative AI produced script to do just what Charles said, to give it that personal touch. So although it doesn't eliminate all of the jobs, it substantially reduces the number of people needed to perform that task. Is that concerning at all to you?
It's concerning to the degree that the system in which facilitates that kind of work environment that like crams writers into small spaces and forces them to crank out content, just constant content that potentially will just be mind-numbing to some people and, not necessarily be of value other than it's just playing in the background. Or should we now see that there's this new tool set that can free up some of the time for these writers, some of the more creative people, to then pitch their ideas, flesh it out, and get a better consensus of how to build a model around their content, so that then this content can grow and learn and build with whatever the intention of the creator of this world builder is. So it's a different mechanism. They should be thinking about upgrading the writer's room with AI versus trying to downgrade the writers themselves or replace them completely with an AI that does not have any kind of connection whatsoever with what real human relations are all about. I mean, you're going to have a person always touch it at some point, including the visual AI, both video and still images. In order for them to look like it had a human, it's going to have to be worked over by a human.
But I guess I have so little faith that capitalism and big businesses are going to heed what you said, which is rather than use AI to replace, use it to upgrade. I mean, think about all the jobs that we already see that have been replaced by technology. Go to your local grocery store, there's hardly a clerk in the grocery store. It's all self-serve. Amazon opens stores where literally there are no employees. Everything is managed by technology, parking lots. I mean, we just think of so many jobs that used to be done by people that have now been done by technology. So, and when I see Netflix advertise a job for $950,000 for an AI specialist, I don't think that's to help, boost their existing content creators as much as it is to figure out ways how to use AI to replace them. When we come forward, do want to talk about the impact of AI on Black and Brown creative, the Black and Brown creative community, right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm young, gifted, and black.
KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of Black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of Black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring Black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for Black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of Black audiences are concerned about the lack of Black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the Black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% Black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black. Your Black. Your Black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4, only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk.
We are back, and in this hour, we are talking about the impact of artificial intelligence, generative AI, on the Black community, particularly the creative community. So, Dulce, you said you had a lot to say about how AI is impacting the Black community. Talk to us.
So I'd like to actually address what you were mentioning earlier about capitalism and how AI could be exploited through the big tech companies. I think that one thing that we need to remember is the generative aspect of all of this, the variations and the abundance that comes through that. The more you make variations, the more you have content, the more you're under the weight of this content. They're going to realize very quickly that a lot of this can't be metered, especially since most of these AI models are open source and available to anybody. I'm teaching my sons who are in their early 20s how to create their own AI models based on their own data sets for music videos, so they can make their own music videos, or to even come up with some different sound libraries that they can use in their music. So teaching how to use these things to enhance what you already do, or the creative kind of pipelines that you already work with, I think is very imperative right now to show people, and also to illustrate how it's not under the control of one particular entity or multiple different entities. You can take your own and build for yourself off of these. It's always been that way. It's the way of the internet. The web has always been this way. It's only been recently that we've been funneling it through big corporations like X and Meta and TikTok or ByteDance, whoever these big corporations are. They're the ones that are trying to force us to think that we have to go down their funnel. But we don't. There's a thing called WebXR. I'm a spatialized technologist, and I push WebXR, and WebXR is the tool set to make your own metaverse online and have your own VR and augmented reality, virtual reality kind of experiences online. And you could do that with a website and a domain name. Just know how to JavaScript and HTML, and you could build that.
So Dulce, you just said all these things that everybody can do that are so simple, and you used about 12 or 15 words. I got 2 of the best degrees in this country, and I don't know what you were talking about. So I'm imagining that my 92-year-old mom who watches and listens to this show is as lost as I am. So to
People
you,
aren't aware
it's very
of it.
easy and very simple, but to the average internet user that just goes on, check their Facebook, just check their Instagram, post a picture, it's not. It's intimidating, and it's very scary to us. And you sound incredibly learned, and like this is something.
It's not too scary to Gen Z. A lot of Gen Z and a lot of Gen Alpha. I have to tell you that. They're pretty digital native with this stuff, and a lot of them are not posting their personal stuff online, even though they are consuming TikTok and they're going through the doom scrolling of TikTok and they're sharing the memes and things like that. They're very rarely posting any personal content unless they are trying to be an influencer and they're trying to go viral and blow up, and they have a niche and they figured out what their little niche is that they can do.
What does that mean for the rest of the world? Gen Zs aren't the only people in the world. I'm thinking about a lot of these writers, Charles, and actors that I see out on the picket lines. That a lot of these folks are not Gen Zs. These are baby boomers. These are old age millennials. So, the world is bigger than just Gen Z. What does that mean for the rest of the world?
I think they will adapt, like the way that writers adapted from the typewriter to the word processor, until like Microsoft Word to Google Docs. I mean, it's just another tool. Like we went from writing letters and sending contracts through couriers and mail to actually sending it through email. It speeds up the
But let me
process.
say, if you guys suggest that this is a great tool, and I love technology, and yes, you're right. We used to have to pay people to pick up things and deliver them for us, and now we can, shoot a quick email. But then why are the writers and why are the actors? Why are they saying we are nervous, we're worried, we're concerned?
It's not just the writers and the actors. It's the lawyers, it's the coders, it's the programmers.
No, that's not true. Go on, you can see the writers themselves. I have writer friends that have been on this show.
But I'm saying that lawyers and programmers are all shaking in their boots too. I go to programmer conferences and everybody is shaking in their boots about AI because you can now easily use ChatGPT to write an app. You don't need to hire a $100,000 developer to crank out an app for you anymore. Now you can do it and you can test.
But that's my very point. That's my point. So if Sony doesn't need to hire a programmer because they can crank out an app, what does that mean for these writers and actors who are not, the mega stars, the working actors, and some of these studios that are, in their opinion, in the opinions of the writers and actors, trying to exploit their name, image, and likeness and not compensate them fairly for it?
It means that things are fundamentally changing. And we really need to step back and think about morally and ethically what this all means for everybody included. I was at a conference where somebody asked, what happens when this gets into the wrong hands? And we all collectively said, it's already in the wrong hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth. And now it's just about giving it to everybody and to making sure it can get into everybody's hands.
Before we run out of time, I do want to talk about the impact on the Black community. Charles, what do you think AI, does it have any particular impact on the Black community different than other communities?
I would say no. What it can do is give you a leg up if you choose to learn it. If you can choose to learn how to create your own AI or work with a bunch of AIs, it can give you a leg up on things. It's kind of like you can ignore it and watch it take your job, or you can take part in it and enhance your probability of doing a job. So
great point. What do you say to that, Dulce? Do you think it has an impact on the Black community?
We need more Black voices. And we need more Black representation, and we need more Black imaging. I use these AI models all the time, and they're so Asian, Euro-centered, the feedback and the way that, and they'll turn Black people into Asian and Euro-centered people, which is a whole nother thing about digital blackface that I'm so passionate about, how people from Asia and Europe are using Black culture and selling it back to Blacks in digital form in a way that is there's no control. The real community has no control over that message or its representation. And then you have big corporations that are aligning with these fakes,
How do we get, Charles, more Black voices? That's a great point, Dulce. How do we get more Black voices so that the images are more reflective of our, Black community?
We have to actually market these tools to Black people. We have to have workshops and invite people in. People are scared to try technology. They're scared of technology initially until they try it. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Then they get it. People care to forget. Facebook was foreign to people. MySpace was foreign to people, and people stayed away from it. Then when people start realizing you can make money off of these platforms, they got involved with it. Instead of being behind the curve, we should be in front of the curve. And that means there's YouTube. YouTube's the greatest university in the world. Anything you want to find to do is right there.
And Leimert, the conference,
yes,
the conference that we're doing in September on the 23rd.
Tell us about Leimert, Dulce.
Well, it's a conference that will be happening in Leimert Park, and it will be focusing on the convergence of entertainment, technology, and community, and how that bridges all together, helping people find work, entrepreneurship, mentorship, just showing that these tools are available and what these tools are, and inspiring people to get more involved.
No, great. Where can we find, Charles, more information about that conference? Is there a website or something?
Yes, there is. Leimert.com or blacktothefuturela.com is directly to the conference. The conference is September 22nd through September 24th, and the big day is the 23rd, which is in Tech.
So if you don't live in Los Angeles, and most of my audience does not, where can they get information similar to what's going to be available at this conference?
Black to the Future.
What was that, Dulce?
The Black to the Future website?
Yeah, Black to the Future LA. They can actually go to Tech Leimert's website. We may stream some of the conference talks to the website or have them up there later for people to watch. We'll definitely have highlights for the conference. But we also plan to have workshops and panels and other lectures throughout the year coming into 2024, 2025.
Well, thank you. We are out of time. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Dulce, for what both of you are doing to educate our community in particular about technology, how to use it to enhance what we already do and avoid being replaced by technology. I love that. And you're right. There is a lot of fear. And the best way to deal with fear is just to walk right into it and embrace it. So we're going to look forward to that conference that's coming up. And folks who are not in Los Angeles, make sure you check out that website so you can get this valuable information. Next voice that you hear will be Robin Ayers and the Raw Report. Don't touch that dial right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relations.